Hey everybody, welcome to Live with thoughtbot. We are upgrading a Rails 3.2 application that is from our book, Ruby Science. It's an actual example application, real live application with a lot of concepts extracted from real applications that we've worked on. And the book goes through how to keep your code clean in this example application. Well, the last time we updated that application was when the book was written, which was about 10 years ago. And so the current version of Rails back then was Ruby 3.2. Oh, forgive me. I'm Chad Pytel, thoughtbot developer and CEO. And with me today is Sara Jackson, another developer at thoughtbot.
Hello.
So we're going to be doing this live. So the current version of Rails back then was Rails 3.2. The patch level that the application is at is Rails 3.2.8. And the current version of Ruby back then was Ruby 2.0. And the current version of Ruby is 3.2.2, I believe. And is that right, Sarah? I think that's right.
Yes.
So, these are real world problems. So, it's really common for an application to get out of date. There's nothing inherently bad about it, but having an application this old highlights some of the problems with that, in that it becomes really hard to upgrade once you don't upgrade. So for example, we're going to do this live today. I haven't prepped for actually doing the upgrade beyond my familiarity with the example application, just of how we're working on it. But I didn't have it set up on my latest computer, and I went to go set it up, and I have a new MacBook Pro with an Apple Silicon chip. Ruby 2.0 was not doesn't build on that system, and doesn't work out of the box. So what I did was, okay, I'm gonna just switch to the newest version of Ruby that I knew of, Ruby 2.7.6, that works on Apple Silicon. And Rails 3.2, the latest version of Ruby that it ever supported, was 2.2. And so the application was then, I had Ruby working, but then the application didn't run at all on my computer. So what we did to get and that's a real world scenario, in that you could totally have an old application running on a Linux server somewhere that you haven't touched, and it's in maintenance mode, and now it's time to upgrade because there's a security problem, and you get it on your computer and you find out, my computer's not set up to run this. The architecture is different, those kinds of things. So Sarah was gracious enough to get it running on her computer. She is lucky, unlucky, I don't know, to not be on Apple Silicon yet.
I think it's lucky.
So she was able to get the application running on her computer without too much trouble. Right, Sarah? You just had to do some config flags on the Ruby build.
Yeah. It just took me like a half hour to do some Google searching. Yeah.
And then, and so now we're up and running, and we're pretty much ready to go. So the first version of Rails that I used was 0.13, I believe. It was before Rails hit 1.0. I've done a lot of Rails upgrades over the years. But Sarah, I understand this is your first actual doing a Ruby and Rails upgrade on an app.
Yes. As much as I have been a Ruby on Rails developer, I have never done an upgrade before. And so I was like, why don't we go high stakes on the first one? Live stream with the CEO. It's fine.
I think it's actually fairly common, especially, so there's this weird in-between state where an application is early enough and you might be building it quickly and going to production quickly, so no Rails versions or Ruby versions come out, and if they do, maybe you don't upgrade right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have big applications with multiple team members, and so even if a Ruby upgrade happens or a Rails upgrade needs to happen, you might not be the one to do it, and you might not be involved. I think that's the situation a lot of people are in. So what's the general strategy? The general strategy that we would recommend, and that this is recommended in the great Ruby on Rails upgrade guides as well, is to take every version one at a time so that your changes are small, and go through every version one at a time. Ideally, you're doing it not long after the version of Rails comes out, and you have a really robust, complete test suite in an ideal world, and so you can change your Rails version in your bundle. You can bundle install. You can run the specs. You run a Rake task that's built into Rails, calls Rails app update. It makes your configuration file changes. You run the specs and you fix what's broken. That's the general strategy that we would always use. The problem we have now is if we were to do that, I think there are something like 57 different versions of Rails that we'd have to go through one by one in order to go from Rails 3.2 to Rails 7. And we would do the Ruby versions along the way that only work on certain versions of Ruby. So let's go to the screen share now, and let's just go through the process of figuring out how we're going to approach this. So the first thing I would do if I'm going into an application is I would open the gem file. The gem file is going to tell me what version of Rails that our app is currently at, and we can see it's at 3.2.8. Okay. It's also going to tell me what can be one of the biggest areas for upgrade pain is dependencies. What dependencies we have. And we look at the other gem. Now, this is a complete working application, but it is a fairly straightforward, not huge application. And so you can see we don't have tons and tons of external gems that are dependencies that might give us a lot of pain along the way. And then the other thing I would look at is the Ruby version, or you might have a tools version file or something like that that tells you what version of Ruby the application currently uses. And you can see this one's 2.0.0. So we have, so that gives me an overview. Okay, we don't have too many gems here. The version of Rails is super old. And just knowing Rails history, going from version 2 of Rails to version 3 of Rails was a really big change. The framework merged with another web application development framework called MERB. And when we did those, oftentimes we needed to bail on the whole entire automated or manual upgrade process of actually changing the application. And instead, what we would do is generate a new Rails 3.0 application from scratch, blank. And then we would go through and we'd say, okay, let's move the models over. Let's move the test code over. Let's move things over into the new application. Because so much had changed from 2.3. So the reason why I mentioned that, even though it's long ago history, is that can be a valid strategy for a Rails upgrade even today. And I think we want to consider it when we're so far behind that we are going to have to go through not only the 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 versions of Rails, but there are patch levels along the way which significantly change things. We also have the Ruby versions of going through. So one strategy we can consider here is we make a new directory, we change our Ruby to whatever version of Ruby that we want to use. We make sure we have Rails 7 on our computer, and we say Rails new example app in a separate place. And we generate a new example app, and then we go through that. That is a very drastic move. And if it doesn't work, we can find ourselves in a situation where we've just spent a whole bunch of time doing that, and we have something that doesn't work. So it's pretty risky. The other option is we could do them one at a time, increment the version of Ruby, see if everything runs, then increment the version of Rails, perform any updates, bundle, perform any updates we need to do, make sure our tests pass. Sarah, do you have an opinion based on what I described, or clarifying questions that can help us make that decision?
I think I would benefit greatly from going through it one at a time, but I don't know how much time you have.
Yeah. So that's the way I was leaning too, not only because it will be an educational experience, but because I'm not confident at this point about how long this is actually going to take. And I think it's going to take a while. And so the fact that I can't work on this on my computer is a blocker to actually getting this work done, this upgrade completed. And I'm not confident that simply going to Rails 7 and the latest version of Ruby is going to be faster than doing some version upgrades to get to a certain point where we're sort of modern and then jumping the rest of the way. So actually a sort of a combined approach where we get up to a fairly modern version, like maybe Rails 5, maybe Rails 6 by going incrementally, and then just going to Rails 7 at that point. And hopefully we'll get to that today, but I'm not confident that we'll get to that today. How does that sound to you?
Sounds good.
Okay.
A lot is riding on my laptop not melting down.
Well, it is an Intel chip, so if we hear fans whirring in the background, we'll know why.
Yep.
Okay, so generally speaking, I found Ruby upgrades can be more straightforward, but also if we look at a table of like Ruby version support for different versions of Rails, I think I said it was 2.2 that's supported in Rails 3.2. So we should be able to go to that version, and I'm not sure that we can increment the version of Rails on 2.0 Ruby. I'm not sure that it will work. Can you bring a browser up on your computer?
Yeah. Hold, please. How do you? I'm an adult that knows how to use computers.
Well, I didn't see your doc, so that's not me. But I can, and Spotlight comes up on my computer, not.
How do you hide the like little bookmark tab? Bookmark thing.
Under View, show favorites bar. The favorites bar or the bookmark sidebar. Everything's under view in Safari.
Yeah, maybe it's the bookmarks bar. I don't know. It's not going away. It's okay. We'll do it live.
Oh, well, this is Chrome. All bets are off. Okay, so what I was going to search for was what is the latest version of Ruby that Rails 3.2 supports? I think that's going to give us a nice table, actually.
That is a nice table.
So yeah, 3.2. Whatever. Required 1.8.7. Recommended was 2.2.
So we can totally go to 2.2.
So we should be able to go to 2.2.
Yay.
Of course, I don't know. So Sarah and I both use ASDF as our Ruby version manager. Do you know, Sarah, whether you can provide partial version?
I don't know. Let's see. What happens? Okay. I think it's what is it? Plugin Ruby to get the list, maybe? Or if you just put ASDF, it'll give you the sort of like printout.
Mm-hmm.
We use it, but we don't know the commands. It's okay.
Well, yeah, and also you can do things like latest, and so often I'll be doing that.
List all Ruby.
RBX, that's a blast from the past. Okay, 2.2.10 is the last version of Ruby 2. 2.2.10. And then we change that in our Ruby version file. While that's running, I'm also going to look at what the last version of 3.2 was.
Mm-hmm.
For that, we'll go to rubygems.org. And we're going to need to scroll back pretty far on the list. This will give you an idea of how many versions of Ruby we are behind. I think it's
3 pages deep.
22.5 was the last version, the patch level of 3.2.
Big oof.
Okay. So we won't change that just yet. We'll make sure that the specs pass. And that's, again, I said it at the beginning, but I almost can't stress it enough. With these upgrades, it's really easy to do multiple things at once because you're trying to move quickly and end up in a place where you've totally broken something and you don't know why it's broken. And it can be difficult to fix that problem.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah. And the other thing is Git is our friend because there will almost certainly be a point in time over the course of doing this upgrade that we get ourselves into that position. And so we want to do pretty frequent git commits to a branch along the way, so that worst case scenario, we can go back to that last working step.
Oh no.
It's okay. So we got a failure building Ruby, which I was sort of expecting because you had said you needed a compiler flag in order to get 2.0 to build on your computer. So this is the error.
That looks
here.
almost exactly the same as the error. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the command that you had to run previously?
Yeah, I have it up here somewhere. And so, yeah, 2, 4,
C flags.
3, 3, that one. But then, wow, oh my gosh, window.
That was me. I moved your window over.
All right, what is it? 2.10.
2.10.
Okay.
So doing a little bit of research to try to get it working on my computer, what I found was one of the biggest issues with Apple Silicon is the fact that you can see it's downloading OpenSSL 1.0, and that is what doesn't compile on Apple Silicon. Ruby seems to compile fine with some extra flags, but it's pretty difficult to get that working. Some people did it a while ago, a couple years ago, after Apple Silicon first came out, but there's been 2 different versions of macOS since then, and so that I found that no longer works.
For what it's worth, I ran the suite earlier, and there is one failure, but I think it's flaky. It looked like it was looking for something, and instead it got it inverted.
Okay. So actually, on that point, there's a couple of things that in the gem file, I know we're going to have to contend with. And so while that compiles, I will talk about them. We know that this gem Factory Girl Rails has been renamed along the way. I think the gem name might still work, but we're going to want to change that and all references to FactoryBot. And I also know that over the course of 3.2 to 7, the asset system has completely changed. Sass, CoffeeScript are no longer in Rails in the same way or at all. And so that's something that is going to have to be changed. And then strong parameters. Back in Rails 3.2, I'm pretty sure strong parameters was an external gem, and that has since been incorporated directly into Rails as the parameter protection that's built into Rails. So I'm expecting we'll probably need to do some syntax updates to that. And the other thing I know is that this gem Born, thoughtbot created that. And what Born did was added test spies to a testing framework called Mocha, which was used by RSpec at the time. RSpec didn't have either spies or didn't have spies in a good syntax. And so a lot of applications back then used a different mocking library and spies. Born is for Jason Bourne, the spy.
Of course.
And so I'm anticipating that a lot of our test code is going to need to be updated. At the very least, RSpec along the way changed from deprecated the should syntax that it used to have to use expect. So at the very least, we're going to need to change that and a lot of our test code along the way. Yeah. Oh wait, the stream can't hear you. Yeah, sure. Spotlight it. The simple answer to this question is I was so focused on 3.2. I was so focused on 2.2 being what we saw was the last version of Rails to work. That the recommended version to work on this list, that I didn't know whether another version would work. So according to this, this table doesn't have the last version that is supported. It's only the minimum and the recommended. So yeah, it's a good question. But now we've already spent 5 minutes installing this one, so we probably should just let it finish.
And then maybe the next one can be that.
Yeah.
It did take quite a while for me to get to installed.
Cool.
Earlier, so. And my fans are a buzzing.
Well, the good thing is I can't hear them in the microphone, so.
It's a pretty good microphone.
Yeah, why don't you, yeah, we've got a comment from Mishu in the chat, and Mishu brings up a good point that when they were doing a Rails 6 to 7 upgrade, everything worked, but the JavaScript all changed. That from Rails, going through multiple Rails versions, the JavaScript has changed significantly multiple times. In fact, like, it's possible, for example, that if this application were using a lot of JavaScript, it would all be written in what's called CoffeeScript, which is a completely different syntax where you're basically, it's like a Ruby version of JavaScript. A little bit like TypeScript is compiled down to JavaScript. So it's possible that we would have to contend with that kind of thing along the way. Rails 7 changed the way Ajax worked. We're in the fortunate position that this application is a fairly standard Rails views, not a lot or any JavaScript. So we're not going to have to deal with that. And I'm pretty thankful for that. But even as it is, like, we're gearing up to, several hours of this upgrade process. That JavaScript stuff, depending on what you're dealing with, the asset pipeline stuff, depending on what you're dealing with, can be a really hairy part of an upgrade. And you may find yourself in a situation where you say, okay, CoffeeScript is no longer the thing people use in a new Rails application. It's not supported out of the box, but we have so much of this code, we can't really change that as part of our upgrade. And so you might make the decision to just introduce an old gem, introduce a patch that allows you to keep on using something that you're using, and tackle that upgrade separately. So while I was talking, thank you, Mishu, for the question. Ruby 2.2.10 successfully installed. Hooray. So we need to ASDF reshim Ruby 2.2.10. So that updated our shell to point to that version of Ruby. And now, just in case, I like to bundle install, just in case. Again, working to identify errors as soon as they happen, so that we don't go off and do something else and then realize, we ran into a problem 5 minutes ago, and we didn't realize it.
When you install it, does it ASDF set it as your local?
Oh, good call, Sarah. Your cat is congratulating you on spotting that as well.
Yeah, she loves a good
Okay, cool.
find.
So we're on 2.2.10 correctly now. Back in this version of Ruby, you really needed to make sure that you bundle exec all the time.
Rerun. You should run bundle install again. So I don't know which version of bundler necessarily that we need for this, but I did have to install a specific one.
Yeah.
For 2 and then reshim.
Okay.
Oh, it's a gem install bundler. Yeah, there we go. 20. That one. That one.
Yeah.
She's loud.
Okay, so no preset version of the command bundle. Yeah. So we're gonna need to eventually bundler gets added to gem, added to Ruby as a default gem. But believe it or not, at this time in Ruby's ecosystem, bundler was actually pretty new. You can see it's 1.17, and Rails had just added it as a thing, or as a way to do gem packages to go along with your Rails app. So, and dependency management. So we are going to need to install that basically at every step of the way until we get to a version of Ruby that has it built in.
As a part of our, as setting this up this morning, I learned that bundler 2 whatever is the normal bundler that it would reach for. Because after bundler 2, they no longer support any version of Ruby that is not being maintained by Ruby core anymore, like by design.
We got a question in the chat. Ruby 2.2 question mark? I think, is that just an exclamation of, I can't believe you're working on a version of Ruby that's that old?
What year is it?
The year is, well, you can see in the Git commit, 11 years ago. So a long time ago. But like I was saying in the beginning of the stream, even though this is pretty extreme, it's not real world, because you could have something running on a server somewhere that has just been running for a long time, and now you need to change it and you find that your computer doesn't even run it anymore. Okay, so we got an error here with the SQLite gem. So bundle was trying to install that. Okay, so we're still working on getting the Ruby version upgraded. My guess is that so when you have a gem file, it's going to be locked to a specific version of SQLite 3, and it's 1.3.6. We're not specifying the version in the gem file, but so my instinct is to bundle update SQLite. I'm going to consistently spell it wrong. So that's my instinct. But before I do that, I just want to see what we've changed. So we've basically changed nothing so far. So I'm just going to do that. So in theory, bundle update SQLite 3 is going to resolve the dependencies and give us the latest version that works with the version of Rails that we have specified and the Ruby version that we have. And so let's cross our fingers and hope. Yeah, so, okay, so it at least successfully installed, which it didn't do before. And so we should now be able to bundle exec Rake. Or now we should now be able to bundle install. Don't know why.
Oh no.
It's okay. It's still using 1.3.6. So it didn't actually change the. I maybe wasn't paying attention to what happened there. Let's see. Bundle update SQLite 3. It says it installs JSON event machine. Okay, so this time it didn't work, but the error is I think it's on event machine, not on. Whew. Yeah, so the failure is actually on event machine, which oh no, it's not in our gem file. So that means it's a dependency that's being pulled in, probably for SQLite. So let's add that one and tell it, okay, don't stay on the current version of event machine that you're locked to. Let's upgrade to a new version of event machine, the latest that should work with the current versions. Let's see if this builds. Moment of truth. Nope. Oh, JSON now. Okay, so we're making progress. It might not seem like it, but we may be making progress. Thanks, Gregor. Appreciate it. Eventually, we'll get to the code, and then that'll also be interesting. Okay, so we got a successful bundle install.
Yay. Well,
sorry. Yeah.
We still have to do the full bundle install, right?
I think it, I think it did it, but
for one more for safety.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so what actually changed at that point? We went to 2.2. We had to upgrade Event Machine, SQLite 3, and the JSON gems to get it to bundle, to compile correctly. And so okay, so what this is saying is please install the SQLite adapter, gem install active record SQLite adapter. Can't activate SQLite 1.3.5 because it already activated SQLite 1.4.4. So this is a confusing error message because I don't know how I know this. There is no gem active record SQLite adapter. If we go over to Ruby gems, or if we just do what it says, gem install this, I'm pretty sure it's going to tell us there is no gem with that name. And the reason why is because this never was a gem. Rails bundles its own SQLite adapter back then. Boy, this is taking a long time to find out that there's no gem with this name.
Are we challenging assumptions today?
Ooh, spatialite adapter. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's no gem with this name. So what's happening is our bundle is activating an SQLite adapter with version 1.4.4 because that is what we just upgraded to. I'm gonna stop that. We just upgraded to 1.4.4, but Rails is trying to activate the one it bundles in bundles. I'm using the word bundle multiple times, but that it ships, which is 1.3.5, and it can't do that because bundle has already activated 1.4.4. That's what I read this error message to mean. And so I think the solution to this is to change this to 1.3.5 in the gem file and pray that we don't get the compilation error that we did before. It should see that hard-coded version. It should downgrade. Yeah, that's what it's doing. Okay.
Oh, do you need to include the event machine in JSON like you did before?
That's a good question. Is this error in SQLite or in those? It's an SQLite. It's okay. Okay. So we may be in a situation where this stuff is so old that we are not in a position where a current version, I'm thinking out loud here, so a current version of SQLite or an old version of SQLite, the one we're trying to use, works with this Ruby with Rails patch level 3.2.8. And remember Rails, we looked it up. Went up to 3.2.22.5. I just want to see.
As a reminder, I think we were on SQLite 1.3.6.
Did we just go down a version?
We did. A patch, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it was still erroring at that level.
Yeah. So let's just see what happens if we go to this.
Full send.
Bundle update Rails, SQLite 3. Because we messed up the versions on, or we changed the versions on those, so I'm including. I may be making too big of a leap here, but I want to see whether it compiles. I think it just did. Let's run our tests and see. Okay.
That's a different error.
It's a different error. So now we're going to do what we are going to end up doing quite a bit. Undefine last method after upgrading to Rake 11. So what version of Rake are we using? Rake is not in our gem file. Oh. It can't. Oh. Okay, so we're using 13.0.6. And this says that the last method was removed. The last comment method was removed in Rake 11. So we can temporarily add using a version less. So this is a thing that sometimes happens when you're doing this. You're going to do something temporarily, like add a gem with a specific version dependency. Okay. Bundle update Rake. And you're going to do that with the expectation that you need to do it now, but we might remove it later, or we might get to remove it later.
It's like scaffolding on a building.
Yeah.
Just hold it up temporarily.
So one thing that could be useful, so we're back to that error again. Okay. One thing that could be useful as you do those is opening like a scratch pad, or I actually have a piece of paper next to me where I like make notes. So it might be like remove Rake from gem file ? And it's like you're generating a list of things you might be able to do in the future, but we needed to do it now in order to try to move forward. Okay. Unfortunately, we're back to that, but I'm going to look at the lock file. So we're on 1.4.4. Was it already activated? Oh, already activated 1.4.4. So why is it still doing 1.3.5?
It looks like there might be another place in the gemfile.lock where we have SQLite 3. Oh. Mm.
Okay. You said it was originally, we can confirm that by going to the git diff. Yeah, it was originally 1.3.6. Let's just see what happens if we... And if you have any suggestions.
My suggestion is to not use SQLite.
It's a good suggestion. So the part of the reason why this application uses it is because we're expecting people to download it, and we want people to get up and running on their computer quickly. That assumption, back when Rails 3.2, that people didn't have a database running locally, might not be valid anymore. And in fact, I think Rails back then did SQLite as the default.
Yeah.
And makes me wonder, actually. Rails did it as the default. Did you So Mishu says, did you run bundle install after adding the Rake gem? I thought I did, but let's, thank you, Mishu. Let's... So I'm going to try my Vim was showing there as I typed DD to try to delete the line.
Mm-hmm. I like where your head's at, PD.
Because if back then, I don't know why we would have put SQLite in the gem file because Rails was bundling it. So that's saying that out loud made me realize what happens if we just remove it. Will we get the version that we're supposed to get? SQLite 3 is not part of the bundle. Add it to your gem file. Okay, so that did not work. Okay, let's go back to, did I try doing 1.3.6 hard-coded?
I think we got interrupted.
Okay.
But it was suggested putting in Postgres, replacing SQLite with Postgres temporarily while we do the upgrade.
And did I spell something wrong?
Okay.
Okay. So now, I think we never looked at do you remember was it 10?
10, yeah. Oh.
Back in December 2015, trying to run the bundle command to install all the gems for a to-do application. I like
This
the
looks
idea
like
that,
the same error.
Yeah, it does look like the same error. I think it'd be really funny if in searching for this, we find people who are trying to get the example application for Ruby Science installed.
Oh no. We tried these things.
Yeah. We just went to this. We could try that. I'm not optimistic, but it's probably worth. Why is it doing that?
Oh,
Ooh,
okay.
Okay.
Hopeful.
So what the tilde greater than sign shows is it says, go up the last patch level, showing like that's okay. Fingers crossed. Okay.
That's closer.
Yeah. What is the actual error? Rake aborted.
Something failed. Lots of stuff failed.
So we got the Mocha dependency, and Nokogiri was built against libxml version 2.3, but has dynamically loaded 2.9.4. And that, okay, thank you, Sarah. It's like, why is this cut off? So it can't, but that's just a warning. So the first error is actually cannot load such file, mini test unit. I'm just going to search for that error.
Mm-hmm.
Just Rails, that's not the... Well, let's see what it says. So mini test is not in our gem file, if I remember right.
I don't think I saw it. Yeah, I thought we were using RSpec. Even
We are, but something is probably using mini test. Probably Rails.
yeah, because that was the thing. It came with default. That comes with default.
Yeah,
Right?
test unit, mini test was a alternative test runner, if I remember right. So it doesn't appear in our code. So I'm making a note. Mini test?
Mm-hmm.
Question mark? Okay. No method run not defined for mini test unit test case.
That's true. Probably.
And that is in this require statement. So it's right when it tries to require it. So that to me sounds like a version error. Sound like a version error to you? Also, this looks like a high version to me.
Yeah.
5.5, 5.15. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, so the current version is 5.20. So let's just see. Oh. .15 would have been from 2019. So let's so let's go back to, it's interesting that it thinks it can resolve to that level.
Yeah. It's a lot of hubris there.
5.5.0 is around the time.
Yeah, I saw shoulda matches in the stack trace too.
So maybe it should have matchers that probably has a dependency on mini tests because it works with it.
Mm-hmm. The call was coming from inside the house.
Okay, so that didn't work. But let's go back to a different version, just in case. 5.0.8. Oh, what we should have done was looked in the git diff to see if mini test was there. Sorry, the gem file, or whether it's being added. Yeah, so it's not there at all. So I did Google this, and the exact thing. So Mocha is that mocking library that is being used for a lot of stuff back then. Method run not defined in test unit test case. That's not quite the error we're getting. It's similar, but it's not the same. Okay. Okay. I'm just, what I'm doing is I removed Mocha, I removed mini tests from the gem file again, because I wanted to just go back to this error and get that and do another, because we, because so one of the things that can be a little bit of a problem or a cause of problems is, take for example RSpec Rails, which is a gem that patches Rails. It can define its version dependencies saying, I work with this version of Rails and don't go higher. But most gems are going to say, like, I work with this patch level of Rails. And then, because they don't know that Rails is going to break the gem until after it does, right? So it's possible that the version of RSpec we're using doesn't work with the version of Rails that we went up to. And if we do, so I've taken out mini test from the from the gem file. What we never did was so the version of RSpec that we are currently using is the same one that was originally locked with 3.2.8. We never said bundle update RSpec Rails. So let's try that. Now, with this change, we are building up to the point where I'm starting to get uncomfortable with the number of things that I have had to change without doing a git commit or anything like that. So keep me honest, Sarah, about making sure we do that soon.
We haven't gotten anything truly working.
Yes, that is true. We've made what I think is progress, but we have not got it working. Okay, so this is interesting because we went from a really big stack trace with unformatted error messages to a formatted one. We went all the way from sorry, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just reading that line. Test unit or mini test must be loaded before Mocha. Anyway.
So I think we may have jumped a little far with this RSpec Rails version. That has me concerned. I'm going to bop over to Ruby gems. Current version is 6. So what I want to see is when this version of Rails came out.
Yeah.
So
See if we can get them on the
3.2.22.
same timeline. 8, right? Oh, 22,
yes,
yeah.
but it's going to be on page 3. So September 14th, 2016.
Almost exactly 7 years ago.
It's almost its birthday.
Well, we passed his birthday a little bit, I think. But
what year? 2016.
Mm-hmm.
2016.
Did I count right? It's 7 and not 8, right? Years.
I don't know. 3.2.22 first came out on June 16th, 2015. So I'm going to look June for the RSpec Rails.
2015. 3.2.2.
Yeah. I lost the window. Oh, there it is. So nowadays, Sarah, do you prefer to have versions specified like this or not in your application?
As much as possible, I would prefer not, because I like the idea of upgrading organically as the changes happen. Take the changes as they come.
Right, and if you are, your gem file.lock should be fixing the versions that you're currently working with, and then you need to explicitly update or use dependencies to. So in general, what we'll try to do is during this upgrade process, we're going to have to fix some gem versions, but then at the end of this process, we'll hopefully end up with very few things having the version specified again. The exception. Okay, so we didn't fix that error. So it is coming from shoulda matchers, like the person in the chat mentioned. So, and that is a thing that's in our gem file. So helps if you type it right.
Do you think tab complete makes you a better typer or a worse typer?
That's a good question. It's probably a net positive.
For speed, anyway.
Yeah, what about you?
I worry that it makes me less accurate when I'm typing. I rely on it a lot.
It went all the way from 1.4.1 to
that's quite
to
a
2.8. So that's a big jump as well. So
back to Ruby gems.
There's probably a way to do this with the actual gem command. So remember what that date was?
June something 2015. So
that one. 3.0. Release candidate 1 came out then. So let's go to 2. And we resolved to 2.8, which was
that's the same. Yeah.
Then so it is possible to like dig in, look at the release notes for this version. It might say something like fixes for Rails 3.2, but that's pretty cumbersome. I wish it was easier. At this point, I forgot what the actual error was. The gem test unit 3.0 can't load test unit test case.
Gem test unit 3.0. That's a different gem than before, I think.
Right. And it's one that's not specified in our... so it is asking nicely. It's asking nicely, please add test unit to your gem file. So since it asked nicely, let's give it a try. Let's see if it works.
It's the thing I really like about the Ruby on Rails community. It's very polite, generally.
So it got 3.6.1
and
installed power assert. That sounds
powerful.
Oh, I got optimistic there for a second. Paused.
Ooh.
Oh, this is good, actually. So we're using Capybara 2.0.1 and RSpec requires 2.2.0. Capybara is a gem we are specifying in the gem file. So that makes me feel like this might be an actual meaningful error.
We're getting out of the weeds of dependency hell.
Well, eventually we'll have versions specified for everything in the gem file.
Uh,
No, Kokiri, please compile. Please compile. I don't know if anyone has had a situation. I feel like it hasn't happened in several years, which is good, but there have been times where Nokogiri was completely broken on my computer, making it impossible to do Rails development.
Relatable.
And you needed to fix that. It's a great gem though, especially if you need to do like HTML parsing and want to pull things out or put things into HTML. It's pretty good.
When it works.
So yeah, whoever Spazizi, if I'm pronouncing it right, spotted the shoulda matchers in the backtrace. I feel good about that spot. So good job. Oh, good. We compiled. So that's good. We got some deprecation warnings. Those have been pretty constant for a little while now, but we got some new ones. Top level mutex referenced by thread mutex. Interesting. Already initialized constant mocha. That's a warning. Warning. So uninitialized constant mocha standalone. Let's see if mocha is in the... So born is... Mocha is a dependency of born. So it's at 0.12. Okay, now let's go for this error. Actually... Okay. $11 years ago, which is exactly the time frame that we're operating on. See, this is great because bundle had been introduced but wasn't an official thing that a lot of people were using yet.
Yeah, why
I
does it
love
have
that.
no upvotes?
Okay.
Oh,
What are you seeing?
the uninitialized constant Mocha name error in a release note for Mocha.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
That's Mocha, not Mocha standalone.
Oh.
Okay, so at some point it was
It was removed.
removed.
Are we on a version that it removed it?
So deprecated require Mocha standalone and require Mocha standalone in 0.1.3. The version we were using is, I think, 0.12.7.
Okay. Hmm.
Okay. This is where we just stare at the screen for a little while, perplexed.
So when does Born upgrade Mocha?
Good call. Let's even just see. Is there a, I can't alt tab because it just
Oh,
switches on my computer.
sorry.
That's why I've been moving the windows. It's okay. So 1.2.1.
But at this time period that we are with everything else, we should be able to do 1.6.
Yeah. Let's give it a try. See, it's RSpec that's loading it though, which is a little weird. Or the backtrace is going through RSpec and the require is in RSpec, it looks like.
Ooh!
Okay, this is exciting.
We did it. Okay. Commit.
I just want to peek at what the errors are.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. This is the changes in things being deprecated in the spec syntax itself. And it looks like
Number 12 was the one that I saw before.
okay, cool. Okay, so let's commit this.
It only took an hour and a half.
Git
Not
branch. What should we call it?
even.
What do we do? Ruby to 10 Rails 3.2.22. Okay, upgrade Ruby to 2.2.10 and Rails to 3.2.22.5. Okay, awesome. So things aren't working now. but
In the
we've
best
made
way.
progress. These are actual, okay. So here's an actual error we should look at. So result summaries using wrong number of arguments, 4 for 3. That's interesting. Where's that coming from? Is it the summarize method that's... The good thing is it's all of our actual errors are this one.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's a different error. Oh, no, it's the same. Wrong number of arguments, 4 for 3.
Huh.
Okay, well, that is good because when we figure out what that problem is, hopefully it will fix it. Let's peek at, this is in a completely different code block.
Yeah.
Half of the audio of this stream is just going to be us going,
Yeah.
yeah,
Look at that.
Recipient list. Okay, so my thing is, this is not actually coming from this line right here.
Yeah.
And I think that we have backtrace silencers. Yeah. You can also remove all silencers if you're trying to debug a problem that might stem from framework code.
Yes, please.
Oh, I should have just ran one of these. Do you have a line runner?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Ooh, here we go.
No, it didn't. Well, did it actually work? How can we tell whether our backtrace has been silenced or not? If it doesn't include anything else. Oh, if you need more of a backtrace for anything.
Config raise error deprecations.
Shall we try that?
Yeah. Hopefully it's not already in there.
You think it's on RSpec? Or this is probably a RSpec. This is probably...
Mm-hmm.
That's a RSpec configuration thing.
Summaries using summarizer. It was onesie.
I had a lag for a second.
Ah.
What is summarizer there? Could be any of these.
Stub summarizer.
I'm surprised that we didn't go up in too many versions. I think in normal circumstances, I would be sort of surprised to be getting an error like this.
Mm-hmm.
But this stuff is so old that I guess I'm not surprised. I'm not convinced that this So with RSpec, you can do -B.
What's the -B do?
It shows you the full backtrace.
Oh.
There we go.
That's better.
Well, born in initialize. There we go. We've got 3 arguments. And something is calling it with 4 right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mocha 1.6. You were gonna say?
Is that Mocha calling
Yeah.
Born? But isn't that the version that Born brought in? Wait. Are they They're two different things, right?
They are 2 different things.
Okay.
But yes, I share your circular confusion. We've got born. We brought in.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Did you want to look at something?
Ah!
Go ahead.
Pause, please. All right. I cede control.
So we did a bundle update born.
Yeah.
And we let it go to whatever version it wanted.
Mm-hmm. 1.6.0 it looks like.
So it's possible that was not what we should have done. In theory, it was from the same time, but maybe we should go back a little bit further.
Mm-hmm. What was it before?
Great question. We lost our diff.
You can diff with main?
Yeah. How do you do that?
Get diff main or master, whichever. I don't know.
I
They updated this one to main. Okay.
A couple days ago.
Oh, nice.
I keep on forgetting I can. So it was 121 and it went to 160.
Okay.
So that's
we did 1 2 2 or 1 3.
Let's give it a try.
Are you guys planning to upgrade incrementally? Hello, Omar. And yes. Now, let's see how hard it is.
Yeah, what we're doing is we're doing some incremental things because the Ruby version is so old. and things are so old, and the thinking was, let's get to something relatively modern, especially since I can't run this version of Ruby on my computer because it's Apple Silicon.
This just means I get to pair with you more. Ooh.
Hey, there we go.
Ooh.
Okay, so we got a deprecation.
That's
but
much better.
We've got a lot more green than we did before.
Yeah, only 2 errors versus the 14, and only one of them is a real error. Because I had the one before. I mean, it could
expected
be a real error.
Something to respond to false. So let's go look at survey inviter.
My guess is that it's coming back as nil. Maybe it's coming back as not false.
Well, it's definitely, it's not coming back with true. What would this do? If valid, and if it wasn't valid,
it would be nil, I think. I was just having a conversation between the difference between false and falsy.
Right. So does be false check for falsy, or does it check for actual false?
It checks for actual false.
That's what I thought. So is this spec just, it was passing before, but it's possible that something changed with something that we've upgraded.
There is a matcher for be falsy.
Let's see.
Yeah. Oh, I love being
happy,
right.
But also a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, very uncomfortable.
So what changed that would have caused that behavior? We upgraded Rails. We upgraded Ruby. We upgraded a whole bunch of dependencies.
Maybe it's, I mean, my guess is that it's the matcher. Maybe the matcher was be false, was checking for nil or false, and then they separated them out.
Upgraded RSpec quite a bit. Okay. And this, okay. Shall we fix? Okay.
We should commit. Yeah, maybe.
So we had to upgrade Born. Oh, we can put back the silencers. We changed that. We put the, should we leave that there? Probably not. Or do you think we should?
We can leave it and we don't have to commit it.
It's a bold statement, Sarah.
Dos.
Okay, so okay. Should we fix that flaky spec?
Yeah, why not? While we're here. In a working state.
Okay, so we're running the specs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the kind of thing where, in theory, this could be flaky, but it's failing pretty consistently. I wonder whether something, what this code is doing is it's pulling from the database.
Mm-hmm.
So, it could be changing order. I just want to look at what the summary for question method.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's finding the order on the page. That's really prone to error.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I would fix something like this, I don't know about you, but I would say, so that we have a string here. I would do split on comma space,
Mm-hmm.
comma space. Also, this app uses single quotes because we did that back then. And then it would be, I always contain exactly. And it would be, is this how you would deal with this too?
Yeah. That's those things that I think about, like where the flaky test is like you don't ever want to compare like values from a list for perfect equality because the order is very rarely promised.
Okay, so that's passing. Good. I always forget whether contain exactly is the one that takes an array or takes arguments. I don't know if I feel like I'm not alone. Greg says that they're facing the same issue right now. I'm sorry, Greg.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Hopefully, is this going to be rewatchable?
Yes, it is going to be rewatchable.
Hopefully, we'll solve your problem in the course of this.
If we actually go through every single version of Rails, it's likely we will eventually hit the exact same problem that you're having.
I mean, hopefully, if they're using the same limited number of gems, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so great. We're all green now, but we have a lot of deprecation warnings.
Yeah.
So when you're going through this process, you do have a decision to make, which is like, okay, do I fix these now or not? The problem with not fixing them is that eventually the deprecations become warnings. Errors, because the code that was being deprecated is completely removed.
Mm-hmm.
So now is our chance to resolve them, because if we keep on upgrading, we're eventually get to the point where we ignored something long enough that it went away and we can no longer debug it. Mm-hmm. Or we're getting an error, a message at all. This is a pretty helpful error message. The one reason why I might not want to do it is because we're going to go through so many versions that maybe the thing we're changing now is going to change again in version 6. And we'll have, but in my mind, that's not a good enough reason not to do it now.
Yeah. I also like the idea of changing it when the deprecation comes up, because then you know that you're kind of clean, you have a clean slate for the next one.
Yeah. So let's see then. Interesting warning in simple form. We did not upgrade simple form. There's a circular argument reference, unchecked value. Let's fix the shoulda matchers warning first.
Okay.
Ensure length of is deprecated and will be removed in the next major version. Please use validate length of instead. Yeah, so at one point we realized all these shoulda matchers were using the word ensure length of, but they didn't. We renamed them to match the language that so it was analogous. So the validation that Rails provides is validates length of. And so we renamed all shoulda stuff to be the validate version of it. So the one thing about this is it's not printing out the line numbers, but we can find it by searching for ensure length of.
That's
What?
just the one.
Yeah. Do you remember what the other one was, Sarah? It cleared the backtrace.
Oh no.
Okay.
I think there was only that one, right? For the
No, there was another validate.
oh.
It was like validate. It wasn't length. It was something else.
Inclusion of.
And then so Capybara RSpec have text implements a legacy RSpec matcher protocol. This whole thing implements a legacy. Everything. For the current protocol, you should expose the failure messages via the failure message and failure message when negated methods. So this is one we may not want to fix because, well, let's see. Actually, because see, it's Capybara that's doing the deprecation is coming from Capybara writing an RSpec matcher. So this isn't our code. And so when we upgrade Capybara and RSpec next time, this should go away. And there's nothing we can do to work around it now.
Okay.
Requiring RSpec auto run when running RSpec via the RSpec command is deprecated. And using should from RSpec expectations old should syntax without explicitly enabling the syntax is deprecated. Use the new expect syntax or explicitly enable should. So we want to do that because we don't want to rewrite all of our specs right now to use. So do you understand what this one is? Okay. Let's just see if it's in our code. It is. Okay, so requiring RSpec auto run when running RSpec via the RSpec command is deprecated. Doesn't say what we should do instead.
Maybe the auto run, maybe you don't have to required anymore. Maybe it's just in there.
Yeah. Also, what is RSpec auto run? I think it might have been like an auto runner to run your specs based on file changes.
Hmm.
Let's just validate that. If you want to run specs using Ruby command.
At exit hook that runs your tests.
Generally, life is simpler if you just use the RSpec command. If you must use the Ruby command, however, we do not need to use the Ruby command. We have been using the RSpec command the whole time. And I am content to continue to do that.
Hmm.
And we've been using Rake to run the specs. So let's just...
I'm going to steal the mouse for a second.
Yeah. Ooh, now that caused failures.
I think I missed a comment about what about Ruby upgrades? Those are also going to be happening.
Yep.
Rails first, Ruby follows, or something.
So we actually did do an upgrade of Ruby to Ruby 2.0 to Ruby 2.2 from 2.0. So I'm worried I didn't. Let's see what this actual error is. So that leads me to believe, yeah, so some of the code is using expect and some of it is using should. And we changed
it to use should.
Yeah. Can we tell it to allow both?
Can we do an or? I don't know. Internet will be like, why would you ever want to do that?
I know. I feel like it's gonna like... So let's actually just see how big the problem is. Oh, it's only 118 across 34 files.
Or there's only 3.
That's true.
Expects.
2.
Or 2?
Yep, only 2. Okay, well, you just answered that question. So hopefully this... Cool. So we would now... We use the expect syntax everywhere. So I'm actually planning on, for the update of the book, changing everything to expect. But in the context of getting this upgrade done, this is a perfectly legit change, I think.
Hello, love from Brazil.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad that you're enjoying the content. I was honestly sitting here thinking, who would enjoy watching us struggle bus through this? I hope it's bringing you joy, support, camaraderie, help. Hopefully we solve some of your problems along the way.
Okay, so I'm going to commit change. What did I do? Change should RSpec expect to should. Actually, what we actually did was remove deprecation warnings. And then what we did was we changed should syntax to, no, that's the opposite of what we did.
That's what we'll do
expect
eventually.
to should. And the other one was update for ensure to validate in shoulda.
So fast.
Sorry.
It's
am I
okay.
Going too fast? If I'm going too fast, then let me know.
No, it's not. It's not too fast. It's just I think about myself when I type so fast, and how it ends up with me having to rebase and force push because I made a mistake.
Well, that definitely happens. Oh, bundle. I got worried for a sec. I still need to do bundle exec. Right?
You can do BE.
Oh, you have that set up?
I do.
Awesome. I'm not going to remember.
Okay, that's fine. You remembered ST.
Failure.
Dun, dun, dun. Aaron, I recently used regex.
You were right. I missed one.
Replace in VS Code, and it works really well. Might help you swap the should syntax for expect. Aaron, I've heard about this. I haven't gotten it to work for myself in the search bar, but I've heard it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I use that quite a bit as well. Okay, so should syntax for a block. Do you know that off the top of your head? I don't.
I mean, wouldn't it just...
What do you think?
The block is just calling the method, right? So couldn't you just should after?
But no, because it's raising an except. What we're actually doing is catching the exception. So I think it should. Raise error. It's like someone with the exact same question.
Lambda.
Use a lambda. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. You're missing an M.
Lambda.
Lambda.
There we go.
Didn't you take Greek? Come on. Or lambda's Greek, right?
Sure. Okay, so that should be the syntax there. Great. And one more time for good measure. Oh, wait. B, E. Of course, I took longer to do that than just typing it out.
It's just getting the muscle memory in on somebody else's computer so that you can go back to your own computer for the rest of the day. Oh, look at that. Oh,
cool. And so we've got the framework deprecation warnings.
Yeah.
And this circular ref argument one is coming from simple form, which is also a gem.
Should we commit?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. A comment on the screen appreciating how similar we all think like when doing this work. Absolutely. That's one of the reasons I really like pairing is when you're working on something alone, you get stuck in a rabbit hole, you're not sure what's going on, you can feel very isolated. Right? When you're alone, you're doing it solo. But pairing, you see, oh no, everyone's got similar thought processes or gets stuck on different things. We're all just working through version to deprecation nonsense together.
It's a good question. Whether simple form is still going. I think that it is. Simple form is not a thoughtbot gem, but it's one we've used for many, many years.
I could have sworn it got deprecated or
really?
something recently. I saw something about it recently. It could be that it's getting a hot new version.
Okay. So we've now got, we went up a big version of, Ruby significantly. And along the way, we had to do Rails to 3.2.22 in order to get that to work. With these old versions, I'm hoping that we can make slightly bigger jumps, but the Ruby version is a real mess at this point because it is so old. So what do we want to do now? We've got this commit.
You want to check the table?
What tape? What?
The Ruby on Rails.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering whether we want to merge this branch or whether we want to make a new branch off of this branch and then at the end collapse all the branches.
Yeah, new branch.
Okay, off of this branch.
Yeah. Okay. And Aaron, yes. This is the Ruby science book.
So yeah, if we did a preface right at the beginning, we are in the process of refreshing the Ruby science book. It's free now, but it's gonna be available on the web with every smell, solution, and principle individually linkable, all that good stuff. And we are updating the example application along the way to 3.2 to Rails 7. I got distracted. What was I doing? Looking at the versions.
Mm-hmm.
We are all the way back here, 3.2.2.2. So we can go, according to this table, we wouldn't run into trouble with the Ruby version until 5.2. Like we said in the beginning, it is really sort of dicey if you're going incrementally, to jump significant versions, because you can easily get yourself in a situation where too many things are broken and it's really difficult to get out of that. So you might look at this table and be tempted to attempt to go from 3.2 to 5.2. I think that would be a mistake. I think we would end. You saw what we just went through to go from 3.2.8 to 3.2.22, and one Ruby version up, or two, I guess. What do you think, Sarah?
I think I'm interested in how many patches of 4 there are.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm going through the book now, and the actual content of the book barely needs to change because it's all fundamental principles, and the syntax even didn't change very much. Some of the Rails code needs to be updated, and then one thing we want to address is there's a principle in terms of passing too many arguments to a method. And now Ruby has keyword arguments, and so we want to address what that means in a world with keyword arguments. So to answer your question, 4.0 came out, and then 4.2 was the last version in the 4 cycle, 4.2.11. We should be able to, according to this table, go to 4.2 on our current Ruby version.
Yeah.
But that's too big of a jump. So I think we should go to 4.0
Yeah.
and then go to 4.2, then go to 5, probably go to 5.2.
And then C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we'll need to do a Ruby version at that upgrade at that point. Okay, so I'm making a new branch. Rails. What did we say we were going to do? 4.0.
Gotta do git checkout B.
Thank you. Wait, what does B do?
Oh, git checkout dash B.
It just does your last branch?
It creates a new branch with that name if you
okay,
haven't
yes,
created
yes,
it yet.
Sorry.
But I
So
think you already
use
created
a tool,
it.
Yeah, no, I use a tool called Git Remote Branch.
Ah.
And it does, you just type GRB and then it does things, but it means that some commands like that I need to type out individually because I don't know the faster syntax.
Going back to that tab complete question.
Yeah, exactly. I know the individual steps sometimes. Okay, so let's close these files. We don't need to change, we should not need to change the Ruby version this time. And we said we were going to go to Rails. So the question is when you're doing this, do we want to go to 4.0.0 or a patch level? And we almost always want to do a patch level. Because there's just like less likely to be errors, and there should not be any more deprecations than there was at 4.0. So I'm running bundle install, and what it's going to do is it's going to upgrade Rails, but it's not going to touch anything else. Yeah. Oh, I should have said bundle update Rails. Clearance is holding back the thing. Simple form is holding back the update because it's holding back action pack. So we need to end clearance.
Interesting strategy from the chat. Doing going between versions, doing initial patch version and then a most stable patch before. Yeah. I like the idea of going to the furthest patch version in the next version because, like you said, a lot of the bugs will have gotten sorted out at that point. But what do I know? This is my first Rails upgrade. Oh, look at all that. Maybe.
It is probably going to be multiple live streams at this point, but yeah, we'll see. That we should have done this for charity, you know.
Yeah.
24-hour charity live streams.
We'll plan better for next session. I'm totally in.
So it depends on Ruby. Greater than 1.9, fine. Greater than 1.9, fine. Greater than 2.3.0.
Simple form, why?
But let's just check So that's going from 2 to 5. So that means that, so this is what I was saying before. Some gems don't put upper limits on
Yeah.
themselves. And so when you do that, it gets too far.
I think we
So-
were including it explicitly in our gem file too, so we could
Yeah.
lock it.
So
Greg, I have so smelly code I've inherited and there's no tests. Would you recommend upgrading or starting over?
that is a really difficult question. I'm not sure we have time to fully address. A common misconception though is that starting over is a good idea, and often it's not, especially for an application of significant size. It's usually more complex and bigger than you realize. And so you think it's going to be easy to start over, and it's not, and you end up not building what was there in the first place, because maybe it worked a certain way and you didn't realize, and that would have come out in a test, but there was no test. So, but the right solution depends on really how big the application is, how much it's used, all that stuff. It's not, in my mind, it's not straightforward.
Who the users are.
Yeah. So you might, one strategy I've done on applications is, figure out what test code you can write. Usually you would start at the integration level and go from there. So do I have my dates right, Sarah? 3.1.1 is 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when we were?
Yeah, we were like June 2015, I think.
3.1.1.
We built a time machine.
If we had titled this like "We're building a time machine and going back in time" as the title of the live stream, we may have gotten some more listeners. Clearance was resolved to 2.6.1, which depends on Ruby 2.4. Okay, that is. So we're not locking clearance now. Oh yeah, I went all the way to the
Dang.
latest version. What version? Wow.
That's alarming.
Well, it was a long time ago, Sarah. Okay.
So maybe 1.10.1 or 1.11?
I'm a little worried about that. I don't know why. Just something doesn't sit right with me about it. You know how there's something about that.
I know. Pre 1.0. Amazing.
Clearance. Yeah, see. Okay, so clearance, which depends on Rails 3.1 or greater.
Okay.
But we're going to 4.
Oh, when did Rails... Wait. Yeah. Okay, now I'm confused.
It's okay. We'll get through it together. Now I'm just doing something for the sake of doing it. It's not what we actually need to do is we need to look back at the version and find which version of clearance was updated to support Rails 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we actually need to do.
Okay.
You think we have a change log? Yeah, we do. You think it goes back to then? Let's see.
Well, we were on 1.17, right? Was that right?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Oh, 1.7. Oh, wait, no, that's just
No,
deny access.
Yeah.
Okay. I got excited.
Okay, well, there's a note about this version fixing a problem
Yeah.
on that. What did we start with? Yeah, it was pre 1.0. So
yeah. Well, which one are we on now? We're
I
at
had
1.17.
tried to do 1. Oh. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Okay, so let's go to 1.7.
That's less things.
It is. So now it's saying strong parameters. Okay, so Rails 4. So we're going to go to another page now, which we didn't need before because we were mostly focused on a Ruby focused upgrade, but now we weren't changing the major version of Rails. But now we actually are. And so we want this handy dandy page here. So it's an official Rails guide that goes over
Nice.
The changes that occur from version to version. And so why did I
Strong params.
oh yeah, strong parameters. Okay. So, because remember, like an hour ago, I had said strong parameters, I thought ended up getting integrated into Rails.
Mm-hmm.
Action pack. So I don't know when that happened, but it may have been Rails 4.0. Or it's possible I'm misspeaking. It's actually the other way around, is that Rails added something which then made strong parameters no longer necessary.
These parameters lift.
Rails 4.0 has removed adder accessible and adder protected feature in favor of strong parameters. You can use the protected attributes gem for a smooth upgrade path.
Aaron in the chat says that's the permit syntax, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was introduced one of these Rails versions here. But you can use the protected attributes gem. I just want to check something with how we're using, if we're actually using strong parameters. because if I remember right, this is really uh, yeah. I wonder whether we're not using strong parameters.
Mm.
Yeah, so we're using strong parameters in this app. Previously, Rails used protected attributes. So instead of specifying permit in the controller, you would specify in your model, you would say you're allowed to do mass assignment on these attributes. But we're not doing that. We're importing the strong parameters gem,
Mm-hmm.
which is now built into Rails.
Mm-hmm.
So that in our controller, we're doing, well, this one's not doing it. This one's not doing it. Maybe none of them are.
That would be lucky. There we go.
Yeah. So where we pulled in this application, we pulled in strong parameters, and then it ended up being integrated into Rails.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, so you needed it, and it depends on Action Pack 3.1 because you needed to pull in the gem. So I believe that we can just remove this.
Let's do it.
Joe Ferris is still around. I should have made him do this upgrade.
He's too busy steering the ship on mission control. Or
Yeah.
is he still?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's running. He is the tech. He's running tech on our infrastructure, DevOps, and site reliability engineering efforts. Okay. So SAS Rails now is problem. So what we can do is for these things that we're hard coding a version, and conspicuously it's the same version as the version of Rails we were using.
Mm-hmm.
We can actually try removing those versions. And what it should do is resolve to the correct version for 4.0, and I'm pretty sure we'll know whether that's the case if the version number it has.
I'm seeing a lot of
Is
4s.
4, yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed it did 4.2 though, so that's a little bit of a, it might be okay, but so this is further than it got before. It wasn't able to resolve the dependencies before, and now it's able to resolve the dependencies.
Baby steps.
So now that people mentioned, is this a 14-hour live stream? We are going to stop at 5 p.m. Eastern time today. But if people enjoyed this, we can be back in the future. This is a real thing that we're working on. It's not contrived for the live stream. I've been thinking about live streaming some of the work I was doing for the last few months now, and this seemed like a fun thing to try. A good task for doing it. So, thank you. Oh yeah, for people who have just jumped on recently, we are updating. We wrote a book called Ruby Science, accompanying that back in 2012, about Rails best practices and keeping clean code and all that stuff. And accompanying that book is an example app. We're in the process of refreshing that example app. The example app itself was built from a real world client application that we had learned a lot from and seen a lot of problems in. And so it's not a copy of the app, but we built it. So it really is a pretty real, based on a real world application. Sarah, we got a successful bundle here.
I'm so excited. Do you know what time it is?
To commit.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you. I wouldn't have done it.
I know, right? How do you feel about the fact that when this example and this book were written, just about, thoughtbot was half the age that it is now?
It doesn't seem like okay, cool. So it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. I was talking to Joe about it yesterday, and to us, it seems like we did Ruby Science a few years ago. It seems like a decent amount of time ago, but it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. It's been over 10 years.
Now you look at all the patch versions of Rails, and it seems like a long time ago.
Okay, so what we're getting here is I ran bundle exec rake, which I shouldn't have done. It didn't break anything, but so the process in general is going to be bundle. When we have a successful bundle, that means that we got things upgraded, but like configuration files and everything are going to change for Rails. So we git commit to lock the current source code in place. And then before Rails 4.2, the command to update configuration files was bundle exec rake Rails update. And what that's going to do is, okay, but if you can't boot Rails, then that rake dash isn't going to work. The syntax for this must have changed. So there's a really handy website. Our tabs are growing here, Sarah.
This is my normal.
It's railsdiff.org.
I've seen this.
And what you do is you put in, we're going from 3.2 to 4. What were we doing? 4.0. Yeah. And then it'll show you the diff of what a new Rails new generates. So remember, I was saying like way back in the beginning of the stream, sometimes you'll do like a Rails new and like copy things in because so much changed in between the versions. This basically gives you an example of what the diff looks like between those two things without you having to run Rails new locally.
Nice.
That's what this is doing. So we can see. See, that just changed. It didn't change in these versions. But actually a fair amount changed here.
Blowing the audience's mind with this site.
Am I? Oh, awesome. Yeah, this is really handy. Okay, so this changed to require, at some point along the way, it changed to require Rails all. But I'm also seeing we've got this bundler stuff as well. You can see we went from Rails saying bundler was optional to assuming that it's there. And then auto load paths changed. Okay.
So we could apply all these changes, but that's not what I want to do. I want to use the rake test so that get back, focus on the problem that we have now. The problem that we have now is Rails won't even boot.
Yeah.
And it's because we are requiring files that aren't there anymore because we are manually requiring some stuff. And so we don't want to pick the frameworks we want. I don't think.
At least for now.
Must have done a exec.js. Surprised to see that. That means that's a asset thing. So let's try removing the sprockets line too.
Oh.
Yeah, so it went. Remember I mentioned coffee Rails went to 4.2 and not 4.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder whether that has something to do with this. But just to make sure, did I make a syntax error? No, it's requiring.
You did just mention something about assets, and then that whole chunk is not in a new version.
Mm-hmm.
It's just require Rails groups. Yeah.
Okay, again, we're just trying to get this to boot so it runs. So let's. Okay, cool. It's okay. It is, so it ran now. And so what it's doing is it's running through each of the files, and you can say, show me the differences, or just overwrite the file, that kind of thing. What time is it? 4:30. We've been going for 2.5 hours now.
Wow.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It feels like 15 minutes. See something in the comments about the sprockets and assets handling can be stressful to upgrade. You can add a gem for sprockets.
Yeah, that's in a later version of Rails, I'm pretty sure. Like back then, I could be wrong. But
Sorry.
that's okay. So I'm going to type D for diff. Oh, yeah. We don't have too many differences here. But there are differences. Let's see what they are. I think we could just overwrite our file with this. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
I think actually we should take a quick break. How do we do that? How do we take a break?
Good question.
Yeah, okay. And we can play some music?
Yeah. We'll go get a drink and be back for 20 more minutes or so.
Yeah. So we'll be back in like 5 minutes.
Stay tuned. Oh,
Asking, Aaron's asking, what made us think of resurrecting the book? I haven't stopped thinking about refreshing the book. It's only, maybe the real question is, why are we doing it now? And it just rose to the top of the list. The list is long of things that we want to do, and it got to the point where we wanted to do it. I think the content of the book itself and very little of the syntax changes. So upgrading this example app is one of the biggest things we actually have to do. What drove it is what I mentioned before, is the desire to free, like right now, if you want to link someone to something in Ruby Science or whatever, it's really difficult to do that, and you end up linking to GitHub, that kind of thing. So I really wanted to get it on the web in a more indexable, available, readable, nice looking format. And so that's a big part of what I wanted to do. And I've been talking about doing it for years, and finally it's coming to fruition.
just in time for 3.3.3. There's 95 days until it comes out.
Yes, and we will keep it. My plan is to keep it updated along the way, so that we don't need to go through this again, which is exactly the lesson that everyone should take away from this live stream, which is stay in school, keep your Rails apps updated, keep your gems updated, your dependencies updated, your Ruby updated.
Stay hydrated.
Okay, so we overwrote boot.rb, and let's look at the diff for routes. So the routes file is often going to show up. I think they maybe have gotten better with this, but like what it's showing you is, here's what I would overwrite with a blank routes file, the fresh routes file. And so there's no chance we would want to overwrite our application routes file with the blank routes file. What it does do, though, is it shows us, did the syntax change for the default setup? And no, the syntax didn't change between the two versions that we're doing. So we want to ignore this. Oh, hold on one sec. Yeah, so we're within the routes.draw, we're doing this, so that's fine. So I'm going to say no, we don't want to overwrite that. Okay, here's the file that we did before. So Aaron asks, are we considering doing more educational projects again? I think it depends on what you mean by educational. One of the things we really like doing, and we've kept up the blog. These books are great, but there are certain things that we started to do that proved really difficult to keep up sustainably over the long term. One of them was videos. Videos get out of date, and it's really difficult and expensive and time consuming to keep them updated. So I doubt that we will do any significant videos again, although I like the idea of the live streams, which is part of why I wanted to do this and experiment with this. But things like the blog, books, that kind of thing are totally more in the realm of what we would have been doing and keep on doing. And Upcase is still really great, and it's free and online, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Okay, so in Rails 4.0, auto loading changed, or the path, the way that the paths did. What I don't know is it's removing these observers. I want to go to Rails diff and look there. Oh, it's just removing comments. These are commented lines.
Mm.
I got confused for a second and didn't realize that these lines were commented, but this one wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's some lower ones that aren't either.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so UTF-8 was that something? Yeah. Okay, so that's there in Rails 3.2. It's not something we're doing particular in this application. Same with this. Same with this. So just I'm making a leap, and I want to make sure people understand, or what I said was that it's not something we did in our application. That's the risk here, is that we've done something to configure the application which was non-standard, and if I just overwrite the file, we're going to lose it. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking, if it shows up as a diff here, then I know standard Rails 3.2 and standard 4.0 don't need this anymore. And if it shows up here, then it's not an application specific thing.
Sounds like you need a diff of a diff.
Okay, so whitelist attributes false is being removed. Enforce whitelist mode for mass assignment. So remember, strong parameters got integrated. Yeah, so this is being removed here as well. Config assets enabled true is being removed there.
Mm-hmm.
And the version number being set wasn't even in our file. So I don't know if you're seeing the same thing I am, but it looks to me like we can overwrite this file.
Yeah, I agree. It looks like we didn't do anything custom.
Awesome. A period was added to these things. I think we can override it.
Oh, look at all those periods.
Okay, so here's something that, oh no, it's not it's I thought at first that it was a Boolean changing from true to false, but it's a different setting altogether. Okay, so it was removed. Eager loading was set to false. Mass assignment, sanitizer, threshold, compress were all removed. Debug assets is true. Boy, these periods being added to the end, to the comments, create some noise.
Mm-hmm.
This was removed. This is important. This is something that, yeah, this is an I just spot, I could instantly tell just from experience that that's an application level setting.
Mm-hmm.
Looks to me like we could, so I don't know what normally do, but if it's just one line, what I might do is like copy it
and then put it in the overwritten one.
Yeah, exactly.
Was that auto explain threshold in seconds? Was that part of the?
It was right here.
Oh,
it's
okay,
being
yeah.
removed here.
But yeah, one line, not worth saving it. I mean, save the line.
Right. But I'm going to overwrite the file, so it's development.rb. It's funny. I was just like, my instinct when I see a line like this is to like instantly change it to host colon, but we can't do that yet. We're not on that Ruby version yet.
It's like having to turn off all of the instincts that we've built up on what's good practice these days.
So it's adding the log level of info. We didn't have one set before. It's adding some asset compression stuff. What's it removing? Very little of actual code that we may have put there is being removed. And it's putting the log formatter. I don't see anything being removed that's put there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can overwrite this.
Yeah.
So test seems likely that there'll be something that we configured. So serve static assets being true is being put there. The cache control is a standard for the Rails 4 config. So that's fine. Wait, the serve static assets one, did I miss that?
It's on line 12.
Okay.
It's weird. It's like they just moved it down a few lines.
Yeah, I see. That makes sense. Or, I mean, yes. Whiny nils. That's an intro. That sounds like something that we would set to true, but Rails would set to. Oh, okay.
Well, that was in development.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that was standard Rails config, and it is removed. So that's fine. Okay, the removal of that is standard.
That
So
line.
here we are with the default URL options again.
Mm-hmm.
So what we would do now normally is probably put that in like an initializer so that it's not in the config file, so that it doesn't have to be saved every Rails upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can overwrite this one and then restore that.
Sounds good. Oh, bike shed collab stream. Aaron, best idea. I want to see Joelle and Stephanie pair.
Okay, so this is inflections. The syntax added a passing in the locale of en. Nothing else changed, so we can overwrite this. Uh-oh, our secret token is going out on the stream. It's fine. It's publicly available in the Git.
Dun,
It's
dun,
an
dun.
example application. So this is in Git. It's okay.
Avert your eyes.
No, it's not an actual secret key. It's fine. Why did it? Oh, it's changing to the because it's generating a new one and then diffing them.
Does it generate a new one?
So my understanding about the way that this Rake task works is it basically runs new with your app name, Rails new with your app name in a temp directory, then diffs between them.
Okay.
So it actually did run Rails new, which would have generated a new secret token. That's my understanding about how this works.
Okay.
Because that's how it doesn't change, like, you know, your application name and application.rb and stuff like that. Okay, so the thing that changed here is we have secret key base. So the syntax did change. It went from secret token to secret key base. Can we change this? It's just an example application, and changing this just changes what your cookies are signed with. So that's fine. Right? Yes? What do you think, Sarah?
I mean,
Okay, well,
if
if we're
it's
concerned
an
about it, what we can do is we could just
yeah.
take the current one. And
I mean, if it's a new setup, if people are setting it up new, they're going to have to set it up new, right? Like
Right.
they can't just upgrade their version of the example app to this one necessarily. So I don't think they're going to have to worry about having their cookies invalidated.
Okay, well,
We can
that's
keep it
just-
anyway
yeah.
for nostalgia.
I was really attached to that secret key base. Okay, so this is just removing comments, which are fine. So we were on support. So this is going from not commented out to commented out. So let's check. That is what it did in the actual config file. So there's no change there that we need to worry about. We can overwrite.
We probably won't.
Yeah, so this is overwriting with the default. So we just want to make sure that no syntax changed. There is, oh, okay, yeah. So it's just putting hello world there. So we want to say no to this one. Awesome. So Rails update. Oh, okay. So Rails 4.0 introduced the bin directory, which is a lovely innovation. That's really good. It's going to get us so that we can, in theory, stop having to type bundle exec all the time.
Nice.
So yeah, this is a fun trip down memory lane and the problems we had to deal with and how they were solved over the years. And it added filter parameter logging in an initializer. It moved it from the config file into an initializer, so it wouldn't be there all the time. Awesome. So we can commit this. Run Rake Rails update.
Nice.
And now we can see, you know, it's like five. It's like just getting to 5. So if
Like the perfect time.
If hopefully
Come on.
it'll go
No
right
ways.
to the specs passing. We should get some deprecations and failures.
I mean, the fact that it's running, I'm just happy. It's not bad.
Same thing as before. Undefined local variable or method authorized for clearance. Yeah. Did we can look, but do you remember all the we upgraded clearance.
Yeah.
In order to get so I would bet that we need to look at the clearance release notes for this version. And something probably changed with the way that it is used.
Yeah. Look at that. 3 hours and we went up a whole major version.
Well, yes, although we're not quite, we're not green.
That's true. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like all the errors are from this clearance upgrade, which is, is actually great because, oh no, this one's not. But again, when you see this, you're like, okay, if I can fix this problem, then my specs are almost all green.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna see if there's a quick, but just by Googling this, the way I would normally, or the right way to do it is look at the release notes, but it looks like my quick cheat didn't actually work.
Deprecated authorized filter.
Yeah. So it was deprecated in the version we went to require login. Update all reference to the filter, including any calls to skip before filter or skip before. So oh wait, we should do this.
Oh, nice.
Oh, the other ones are in the log. There's only one other one.
That's not bad. It's going to fix like 29, 28 failures.
I assume you have bin in your path. Ooh, that didn't.
I have no idea if I've been in my path.
Oh, okay. So we got some other.
A cascade of.
It's possible that we need to make some other changes to the way clearance is configured or added, because remember we went from like .16 or something to all the way up to
1.7 or something.
So this is the next thing we need to do is do an actual clearance upgrade. And it should be pretty straightforward because this application isn't overriding any clearance views. It's just using clearance out of the box. But that's the next task in front of us. We're at the end of our session for today, but it's been fun.
Yeah, I learned a lot.
Let me just.
Yeah.
Okay. Replace clearance authorize with require login. So the way that we would do this is look at the actual release notes for the clearance versions that we went to, identify whether there's, but especially for this kind of thing, like it's not worth banging our head against it. We should look at the actual release notes and do it. And that's how I would approach this.
That makes sense.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. I actually had a lot of fun. This is the first time I've really ever done a live stream like this, and so it's been something I've been thinking about for a while. And we can either keep on going with this. This is real work that we're doing, that I'm doing, so we can keep on with this. And then there's other things, actual application development things that I'm working on, that kind of thing. And it sounds like there's, I don't want to promise too much, but it sounds like there's interest from other people who have been thinking about the same thing to join. So
Yeah. That's the sense that I got on both sides.
awesome. Sarah, thank you for joining me. Thank you for jumping in on this relatively ad hoc adventure.
Absolutely. I had so much fun.
Yeah, and we made it might not feel like it, but we actually made a pretty significant amount of progress in terms
it
of
feels like
how
it.
old this stuff was getting upgraded. I guess the final thought is, at the very beginning I said we could just go for it, and I feel good about that decision. I'm not doing that because I think we could have easily ended up in a situation where too many things were way out of date and nothing was working. So I feel good about what we did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. We should play some music or something now.
Honestly, this was less painful than I was thinking it would be.
The upgrade or the stream?
The upgrade.
Okay, good.
Stream, I'm that's fine.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you all.
Bye.